Welcome, everybody, to Scarves and Spikes, episode 27. Guys,
Tommy,
today's the day. They released it.
is it?
The Captain America replica, whatever thing that they did.
Oh,
We got to start with it. It's the biggest news of the 4th of July weekend.
You mean the thing we pulled out of like my grandmother's linen closet?
gosh.
You know, when I saw the Marvel and MLS were teaming up, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be something. And we got it. It was something.
It was something.
I didn't even realize, like, I didn't put it together. It was like Captain America, 4th of July weekend. Oh, it all makes sense. Oh, wow. It was ugly.
Oh, they dropped
It was
it
ugly.
hard, man. It's bad.
It's selling out, though. Like, there's only 2 sizes left on MLS Shop.
You know who had one?
What's
Franco
that?
Ibarra's dog has one. So
Maybe he's got one for, like, every day of the week.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, people will buy anything. I mean, needless to say, I'm not a big fan of it. And by the way, Tyler, you're a little quiet on your mic, so hopefully we can get that resolved eventually. But it is I saw someone on Facebook refer to it as pajama tops, and I'm glad all they are is training tops and not actual jerseys, because people's eyes might bleed if these are trotted out during an actual match. So, yes, very interesting design decision, and let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. I will defer to anybody else that wants to go purchase it. I'll skip it.
We're not judging you if you do. We're not judging you.
No, not at all.
Just...
Just not my cup of tea.
Well, we got a big show today. We have Steve Cangelozzi coming over. He is going to be talking about it's Philly Hate Week, right? I think every time we play, it's Philly Hate Week.
SEC. SEC.
Oh boy, it's finally time. It's finally time that we get to talk about this, because I don't really know if I think we briefly hit on it during that entire Athletic article, but Steve Curtin made some real nasty comments about Atlanta fans. About being SEC crowd, not being real fans, just here for a party.
Just here for the party.
If the supporters group don't do any type of like driver's license type thing, TIFO, because that's what he said. He's like, you need to check people's driver's license to see if they're from here. If they don't do a TIFO with like a driver's license, right, then they have completely missed out, and I'll be very disappointed. But I mean, we've it's been a rivalry for a while now with them. They've gotten a fight with our coach. Our coaches have got into it, and now you've got him getting into it with the fans. So yeah, that's going to be fun. We're going to talk about the academies and their great weekend that they had, and I think the biggest thing here is we have a transfer rumor.
We have a transfer rumor.
Finally.
This is the transfer window light.
You sure you're not summoning like Candyman or something?
If that's what's going to get us transfer rumors, sure. We have not got many of it.
R.I.P. Tommy.
Yep.
Yeah. And we'll touch on it real quick, but I just want to say, I mean, don't overreact if you're a Atlanta United fan because we don't see transfer rumors right now. I mean, the window opens next week, and who knows? I mean, the club could be tight-lipped about who they're bringing in. So just throwing it out there as kind of a disclaimer. But, yeah, we do have a transfer rumor, and, yeah, it is a Frenchman by the name of Tristan Muyumba from Ligue 2 in France, and apparently linked to Atlanta United, that according to Lake Tanzi from L'Equipe in France, which is a major sports outlet out there in France.
Yeah,
so if you
it's a reliable source. This is not, somebody that got bored this morning because they just wanted to conjure something up. It's a legit source.
Mm-hmm.
And
That this wasn't Zilf?
this was not Zilf.
This was not
Okay,
Zilf.
just making sure. He started one like a couple hours earlier. He tried to.
He tried to. No, and also it fits the mold, right? Or at least kind of. It fits a positional need. He's a midfielder, and I mean, I think we've spent like 70% of our show over the past month and a half talking about the midfield for this team. So, you know, whether he's coming in as a backup to Ibarra or Josedu or Sadic or he's maybe the starter, I don't know. But I look, this news dropped like what, a half hour before we went live, if that. And so I spent the little bit of time that I had trying to talk or look up who this guy is, what he's capable of, and we'll see if it even happens. First of all, it's a rumor, but he definitely seems to fit what Atlanta needs, at least what I think they need. He's a central midfielder or defensive midfielder that he's comfortable on the ball. He's speedy, quick. I don't know if he's got fire TikToks, Tommy, but he's definitely Gray Gowder from DSS kind of described him in the time that he looked at him as fearless in the midfield, good ball control, which, I mean, all those are kind of aspects of a midfielder that you're looking for right now, right? So I think it's definitely something to be excited about if it happens. He's been a staple of, I think it's pronounced Guingamp or Guingamp or something.
Sure.
Well, I'm going to go with it, whatever. It's a League Two side. But he's been a staple of their side for a couple of years now. He first made his appearances with them in 2020, had a couple, and then the 2021-2022 season jumped up to 31 appearances. He had 3 goals that year, an assist, and then this past year he's had a couple of assists. But he's played 2,664 minutes this season, and they ended up in 6th overall in the league. So he's been a huge part of their side, and his highlight reel, it's fun to watch. Hopefully it translates if he does in fact come here.
Yeah, excuse me, not a showstopper. Won't be on a DP contract or anything, I don't think. Maybe a high GAM player. But yeah, came through the Monaco youth system. Monaco, obviously, a big club in France. Well, in league, I should say. Monaco's not French technically, but you know what I mean. Went to Bruges in Belgium, and then went to Toulon, I think it's pronounced, and then Guingamp, I think it's pronounced as well. But yeah, born in France, born in Paris, and then spent, like I said, a few years with the Monaco youth setup, played with their B-side, the reserves for a few years before, and then went to Belgium and then made his other stop in, I think, the 4th division of French football, and then joined Guingamp. So, again, it's not a major name, and kind of part of me thinks it's a signing for the MLS Next Pro side. I could be wrong, but I don't know if he's going to be a starter necessarily. I mean, he could.
I don't know. I think it's a first team signing. I mean, he's 26. I don't know that they would be bringing in somebody. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just, it's one of those. There's a lot of question marks. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more about him over the next, few days or whatever. There was a follow-up tweet from the original source that kind of seemed to point to Atlanta being a front runner, depending on the translation I think that you look at. But I mean, he seems to be more of a no frills kind of business midfielder that's just not scared. And I mean, I think that's exactly what this team would need going forward, especially with the problems they're having building out of the back. He's not afraid to take the ball, take guys on one-on-one, but he keeps the ball glued to his feet. So at least in the video that I've seen, and this is not like a 2-minute highlight reel. This was extensive. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think
very curious.
Yeah, and just real quick, among Atlanta United, of course, you said Tyler front runner, but a couple of Zweite Bundesliga teams, according to Tanzi, including Rostock, are in the running, according to the tweet from earlier on Wednesday. So yeah, we'll see what happens on this regard, and yeah, whether he makes his way to Atlanta, Tommy.
I mean, it's important that I think that's the first rumor and the position, right? The midfield. I think that's the most important part I'm seeing about this is that's that's what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see that this team gets stronger in the middle. It's been our biggest pain now for a few years, and they're looking at it, and that probably means that they can move players out as well. I think that as you add players, it's going to start getting really crowded. So do you want to hold on to all these players in that position? So I hope that, something like this comes true and we continue to see midfield rumors come around, because that's really what we need here.
So Emilio asking, is this guy 6? I was thinking we can use an 8. This guy is either or. From what I've seen of him, he's comfortable enough on the ball to be the type of 6 that I think Atlanta wants, in terms of, he's going to receive the ball from the center backs or from Brad or whoever, and he's going to control it well. He's going to turn. He's going to move upfield. I don't think you see him maybe giving the ball up as much, but as an 8, which actually has been mostly, I think, his position, at least in the last season, from what again, very minimal research before this episode aired, but he is, he's a forward-facing guy. He's a forward-facing midfielder. So I think, you might get a few goals out of him, but I think the biggest thing is just going to be his ball progression. I think he's going to take, if, again, all hypothetical, if he does end up here, then I think it takes a lot of the onus off of Almada or whoever's the 10 to have to draw back as much. I think he kind of fits the mold of what we've been talking about in terms of a guy that he can lock it down. Now,
sort of that connective tissue, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, again, this just came out, like Tyler, like he said, right before we came on. Well, I mean, it actually came out like at 3 a.m. our time, but then making its rounds around Twitter over the past few hours before we came on. So, yeah, Tristan Muyumba from Guingamp, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Ligue 2, the second division of France.
I love every word that you pronounced about him, like everyone, like every time you say a couple words, it's like, oh, that sounds really cool. Then you say a couple more from the league, and then you said something else, and it's like, ooh, even better. I hope we sign this guy, because I just want to keep having you say that. And like, I kind of hope you're wrong, because I love when people like mispronounce things, and then we find out later. But you're doing a great job. You make it sound legit.
You sound professional.
Right. So what's his name again?
Tristan Muyumba.
From
Tristan Muyumba, with Guingamp, I don't know, and Ligue 2.
I could hear you. I can hear you say this all day.
Not Wemba Muyumba.
I wish that was my text tone. Just you saying that.
Muyumba.
It sounds good.
But yeah, I'm sure that won't be the only transfer rumor we'll see. But at least good to see one for Atlanta United. But yeah, that's our discussion about Muyumba, and more to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think we've been really down. If you watched our Monday episode, we talked a lot about the Red Bulls game. I don't know if we're going to get too much into that today, because it was something. I think a lot of us might have turned the TV off. I hit up a restaurant a little bit later and watched it there. I just couldn't sit at home and just focus my entire attention onto that entire game. But we do have some exciting things that happen on Saturday, right?
We did.
Another trophy.
Yeah.
Added to the cabinet.
We're going to talk about the academy, but also shout out to the Unified team for beating the Red Bulls on Saturday as well. So shout out to them. Congrats to them. Great kids, great cause, Special Olympics. So quick shout out to that. Yeah, but academy U16s played in the MLS Next Cup and MLS Next Cup, and got us another trophy.
Yeah. So, it was a fun game. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it was enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. And so, if you don't know, quick recap: Kevin Kratz, former free kick maestro of Atlanta United in early years, he is the head coach of the U16s. The MLS Next Cup, it had Atlanta's U15, 16s, and 17s playing in it. The U19s also played Saturday in essentially a playoff game up in Dalton. And I'll get that one out of the way really quick. They earned a penalty in the first 45 seconds, converted it, gave up the equalizer about 14 minutes later. They were up a man at the end of the first half, because Dalton ended up with a second yellow. They scored at the end of the first half to make it 2-1. Dalton ends up coming back in the second, sends it to extra time, and they end up losing. Atlanta ends up losing ultimately.
Boo.
in extra time. So get that one out of the way. The Red Bulls match, obviously we've beat it to death. But the U16s, Kevin Kratz, they ran through this tournament. I mean, it wasn't a cakewalk, but they were dominant. And if you don't know, this team in their season went 22-1-1. So,
can I just throw out 2 words, by the way?
Yes, please.
Rocket Rita Rita.
Rocket Rita Rita is
Rita
one of the up and coming talents. Then you will see him in the future. I am certain of it. But you will also remember his name because it's not hard to forget. So he actually won MVP of the tournament for his play throughout the entire tournament. He was MVP for the U16s, and then Dylan Griner, who is the U16's goalkeeper, he won the best goalkeeper in that age group. Exciting match. They played really well. You've got a lot of talent. Cooper Sanchez was the one that scored the first goal. Ben Barjolo and Sanchez those two and Rita combined for the most of the goals, it seemed like, in the latter half of this tournament. Ashton Gordon, a forward that Atlanta has, he's another one to keep an eye on. He's had an amazing tournament and just an amazing season overall. For his age, his hold-up play and his ability to turn and take shots is phenomenal. And he got robbed out of a goal in this one. At the end of the first half, he held off a defender at about the 6-yard box from a beautiful ball, chested it down, turned, took a shot, and during him chesting the ball down, it was called a handball on him. They showed the replay, and it was a clear handball on the defender that had wrapped his arm around his chest.
Oh.
So, anyway, they go into the half 2-0. They're winning, doing well. The Strikers FC, the team that they were playing against out of Irvine, California, come out and they get a goal. They nick a goal, and they look dangerous in the second half. Sketchy final 20 minutes. The U16s, Cooper Sanchez got a second yellow, so they go down a man, and they just weather the storm. And 4 minutes of stoppage time, and in the 94th minute, they have a break, and a beautiful break, and they combine and score a final goal, make it 3-1, and they raise the trophy.
Ice the game away.
Yes. It was beautiful.
You will. I think it was in Florida, so there's not much ice in Florida, but still.
Texas.
They salted the Metro, or Texas.
Yeah.
It's definitely not any ice in Texas right now. It's like
no.
hot as you know what. But
yes.
Yeah. Good on. Congrats to the boys. Like you were saying, Tyler, a lot of talent in there. Rita, who's had some time with the twos. Dylan Griner, who I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about in the coming weeks and months with Atlanta United too. So good on them. Congrats. I'm Kevin Kratz, of course, leading the charge there. And fantastic work for the boys. And yeah, these are players that, and I'll admit, I haven't been spending a lot of attention, paying a lot of attention on the academy. Maybe I should. Maybe I need to really start honing in on the twos, honing in on the academy to see who are these players that are coming up. I mean, we mentioned Noah Cobb a lot, Wiley, Luke Brennan, Nick Firmino, guys that are getting minutes in some form or fashion with Atlanta United 2, or with Atlanta United. Oh, Atlanta United 2 before that. Bello before that. So, yeah, I mean, these are kids that are doing well, succeeding with the U16 setup, with the academy setup. And, yeah, for one, will try to be keeping a closer eye on them because, they're good. They're really good, and they're rewarded this weekend. So,
yeah, and some of them, and I see it in the comments too, Ashton Gordon, he's had time with the twos. Rita has had time with the twos. Speaking of the twos, they had a match against New York City FC2 as well, and they looked rough for about 50 minutes. Little Johnny Viall made his return after a pretty bad foot ankle injury that he had earlier this season, and he came in and just worked New York City, and he was directly responsible for that win. And but we talk about Nick Firmino, and the guy just
what a week, huh?
Man, what more can you ask for? Has a brace, leading the Golden Boot in Next Pro right now. Obviously scored in the match for Atlanta when he got called up for the first team, but comes on and has a brace in this match. The guy's just on fire right now. Absolutely on fire.
So what do you do with this future for the rest of the season?
What
the fans want.
And the fans want him to be signed. And I say maybe give him some more time to develop with the twos. Maybe you do sign him, put him on a homegrown contract. I don't know if you can or not, to be honest. I read somewhere that they can't do it at this current point in time. But yeah, I mean, he's proven to be a really key portion of the piece of the puzzle for Atlanta United too. And yeah, because he's a homegrown with the Revs, or he was a homegrown with the Revs, they can't sign up to a homegrown contract. But man, wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, I don't know if you don't keep him with the twos for now and then sign up to the senior contract when the year comes to an end, and bring him in and gradually increase his playing time in 2024. So yeah, again, he can't be a homegrown because he already was with the Revs. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what Firmino does. 22, I forgot he was that old. So maybe that figures into old. Yeah, relatively speaking. So maybe that figures into Atlanta United thinking just a bit. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, and he certainly earned an opportunity, especially with his play with the twos and MLS Next Pro. So yeah, we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me.
He has 2 call-ups left, 1 opportunity to play. So
yep,
you may see him again. I agree. I don't know that he necessarily gets called up to at least on a contract this summer. But if he continues to have the season he's having, I would not be surprised at all if they jump on that in the winter and they work some space to make him at least a depth midfielder. But the guy brings an energy that this team has absolutely needed.
Yeah, good on him. And again, fantastic week for Nick Firmino.
Tommy, what you got?
I was just to say, like, you look at the depth of what you have, your offensive depth. Sadage, what does that do? I would love to have that young energy in the lineup on a consistent basis. We talked about it on Monday, right? Like Lennon said, one of the best practices they had is when they had, some of these young players here, and you're already. I mean, this is really the season where your youth has stepped up consistently, right? Like you haven't had that consistency of young players producing, and it's just been getting better and stronger in what you've wanted, right? Like this is if you can move on from Minozetto, I don't know if you can, but if you could, and you could bring in Firmino, the salary difference is just crazy, like different than what it would be. You'd be saving money that you could put somewhere else, but you bring something a little bit different to come in late in games, even if that's it, because that's huge. Like you saw what happened at the end of the New York FC game, right? Like you bring in all these young players, the entire game's changed. That we've been crediting Pineda, I think, with a lot of that, right? Like that he's able to bring these guys in. They know what they're doing. They're playing almost a different style, right? Like they're attacking. They're not just having possession. They're moving the ball forward. It's exciting. I don't know. I think that maybe he does deserve this. And then you do get these opportunities. It depends on what your other signings are going to be. But if you weren't bringing in any offensive-minded type players, I think you can do it.
Yeah.
I think you should bring them on.
Yeah, and like Mark points out in the in the chat. Rossetto's on an option year, which, I think that took everybody by surprise, right? At the beginning of this season, it was like, hey, why? And then he had a pretty decent start, actually, admittedly, and then things have just kind of went weird from there. But he's on an option year. You let him walk, and at the end of the season, then you have a spot already open. Whether that happens or not, who knows? But it's definitely an option that is plausible. So we'll see. Couple minutes really quick before we get Steve on, waiting patiently, so he'll be on momentarily. Just some last quick news, then we can switch gears to Steve and Philly, and then we'll definitely wrap up. So there's other news too. We'll talk about Tata Martino here at some point. This is a big episode. It's been a lot of news this week. Mm-hmm. But we try to bring you guys everything about the club. And Paolo Neto, who is one of Atlanta's esports guys, he has made his way back to the FIFA E World Cup. So nice. Congrats to him. And it was quick. He actually took a loss in the first round and then came back and just manhandled folks. So, just congrats to him. That dude is, if you don't follow it, it is what it is. I get it. That may not be your thing. But at the same time, like, they've got a guy who has consistently been really, really good at FIFA over the past couple of years.
Are you good at FIFA, Tyler?
No.
Are you good at FIFA, Sydney?
No.
I'm good at Halo. And
I'm like medium good at FIFA, I would say. Like, I'm not great.
I can play.
Like, I'm in season 7 this year of my Atlanta United franchise. Ooh. I'm good at scouting, guys. Like, if you brought me in, I could do a whole hell lot of better than what we've done the past couple of years.
So what you're saying is a spot in the front office just waiting for you.
I brought Tito back. I'm not afraid to say
it. I'm not mad at you.
All right.
Final bit. Got to give him a shout out. Jay Fortune getting a start with Trinidad and Tobago tonight in the Gold Cup. So,
and goal last game.
Yeah, and had a goal in the last match. So, kids on fire. The kids, all of them, plural, are on fire for this team right now. They've been doing a phenomenal job. But yes, Jay had a wonderful goal and probably a better celebration. I don't know if you watched it in the last match, and then he earns the start tonight. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, you have other U.S. matches tonight. You have other Gold Cup matches tonight. So it'll be a busy night for sure. So, with that being said, Tommy, who do we have coming on?
Steve Cangelosi from Apple TV. I went to the box. That means, hey, Steve.
Gentlemen, I hope you can hear me. How are you tonight?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. Welcome. I had never been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium prior to this season. And this is my 4th trip already this weekend, so I'm starting to get the hang of this Georgia thing, and I'm looking.
You're local. We're glad you're here. It's this new Apple deal has brought us a ton of new faces, right? And it's nice to. Some of you guys are like regulars now. Some of y'all are still making your first appearances, but it's good that you kind of know your way around.
I think it has been a wonderful thing, and I get what people miss too. I mean, I've said this a couple of times this year. In Atlanta, I know the great affinity that your fan base had for Kevin and Mo and Jillian, who did a terrific broadcast down there. And all 3 are friends of mine, and I'm proud to call them coworkers now in this whole Apple project. But I just look at big picture of how we've presented the game so far this year, guys. And, the attention to detail in terms of picture quality and the studio show. And if you could tolerate people like me for 90 minutes, I think the whole thing is a 5-star Boffo success.
Well, before this, you were with the Red Bulls for a number of years. So from calling games locally to calling them on a national basis, I know you had some time with ESPN as well. So I guess what's been the biggest adjustment from that local broadcasting angle to now national and global even?
Well, I was part of the Red Bulls or Metro Stars broadcast if you go way back. I mean, I'm one of the more longer tenured guys in the league, so I don't mind telling people how old I am and how long I've been around. So the thing you lose, right, and this is obvious, you're smart guys and you do a good show, you lose that intimacy every week, the one-to-one relationship that you have with coaches. Jesse Marsh, I would be in his office the Friday before every game, and there was a trust factor there. So you're building that now each and every week with different coaches who do not see you every week. There have been a few teams that we've done more often than others. I think Gonzalo Pineda, again, this will be the fourth time that I have a nice long chat with him when we get him on the phone. Danny Higginbotham is my regular partner. And, we've kind of worked at this very delicately, building the trust of the coaches and the players who might not be as intimately familiar with our work. So that's a process. That's not a hill that's going to be climbed in the first few months of this, but I think we are making great progress at doing that. And I think the biggest difference is we are at the venues. I can't speak for every broadcast in the league, but even in New York at MSG, we stopped traveling for road games for the last few years that Madison Square Garden Network had the contract with the New York Red Bulls. You lose a lot when you're calling the game off the monitor. You lose a lot of the obvious, and you lose some of the subtle things that I think only people in sports television might understand. So being at the venue every week, I can't tell you what that's done for us to have the ability to give you a more accurate and I think energized broadcast every week. And I hope we plan on bringing that for a long, long time with this group.
I think you're off to a good start so far. I think everything with Apple has been great. I think the only thing we've talked about is maybe the schedule's a little hard to be able to watch a lot of MLS. I think that's been our only real complaint. But everything else, I mean, the value of the broadcast and, having the options, right? Like if you want to listen to your home announcers, you can listen to the home announcers, even just learning that and hearing different voices. Like I'll even sometimes start the first half. No offense, Steve, I might turn you off at halfway through to listen to what, the other team would be their announcers, because it's good, because I love hearing different voices. And when we heard you were coming on, I had to Google you. I've got my NHL jersey on. It's the NHL draft today. I realized that you did the New Jersey Devils. So I looked in and listened to some clips of you, and I thought you sounded a little bit familiar when I heard the name. I knew it somewhere. So
yeah, I had a nice 16-year run as part of the Devils broadcast, the last 11 as the primary play-by-play man when Mike Emmerich, the legendary Doc Emmerich, left to go to NBC at the time exclusively. Wow. So I had a lot going on in my life about a year ago, and I made a decision that I needed to dial a few things back, at least for the time being. So when Apple and MLS were nice enough to make me a pretty big offer in terms of number of games to call, I had to make some hard decisions. Was I still physically up to doing maybe 120 live events a year with all the travel that's mixed in? And if there are some other things going on family-wise that I need to pay attention to, yeah, I had to make a decision to leave it. And it's funny, I had left a message for the general manager of the New Jersey Devils, Tom Fitzgerald, and they went on a 16-game winning streak. I don't know if you guys know, very early last season. So I messaged him and said, pretty easy to figure out which piston wasn't firing, huh? You're having great success, and now that I'm gone. But I'm happy for all of them, and the team is in a very good place right now.
Great.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of fans will be looking forward to having you in the Benz on Sunday. I want to kind of pivot and kind of talk about Philly. I know you and Danny have called a few Philly matches this season. Danny, of course, was part of the television broadcasts with JP for several years for the Union. From what you've seen from the Union thus far, and they've been near top of the league, I feel like every year for the past few years. Close to MLS Cup, never have gotten quite there. Of course, last year MLS Cup final was one for the ages, probably one of the best of all time. What makes a team like Philly so good, and how can Atlanta cope with them on Sunday?
I'll tell you why this is a very dangerous game for Atlanta. Obviously, Philadelphia is a very good team. I think we're all in agreement on that. I think there are 4 teams right now that you could say are legitimate candidates to contend for MLS Cup in the Eastern Conference, right? I mean, obviously Cincinnati is at the top of that list. Between New England, Nashville, and Philadelphia, I think all 4 can see a path towards potentially contending for a championship outside of everybody else who's dreaming of the same thing. Maybe Atlanta is a team that does something during the window that has them entering that conversation. But I look at what happened in the last game, and I know this was their most disappointing game in a while, Atlanta, the 4-0 loss to the Red Bulls. But who did they lose to? That was a high-pressing team. Well, Philadelphia is a high-pressing team by definition. They do it a little bit differently because they employ a diamond. But the one thing that they are capable of, more so than the Red Bulls and most teams in MLS, they will make you pay when you turn the ball over. So this is a team already that scored, I believe, 34 goals to this point in the season. Atlanta's a team that I believe has already conceded 35, if I have my numbers correct.
Yep.
So what does that mean? I think this adds up to a situation on Sunday afternoon where people like Purata and Abram, I understand he was healthy enough to practice today, so I'm assuming that'll be the center back pairing again. I think this is an afternoon where they have to have one of the most responsible games that they can play. And whatever constructs their midfield, whoever's at the 6 for them, if it's one person or more, they also need to play an exceptional game. Because right now, Philadelphia's got it going on all cylinders. Daniel Gazdag is a terrific player. The attacking trio with Ua and Carranza is fantastic. But guys, more than that, they're getting production now from people they're not accustomed to getting production from. Jose Martinez is scoring. Leon Flock found the score sheet. So it's coming together for them now. And it's understandable to me why it took so long. They were navigating CONCACAF Champions League. There was a crunch in the schedule. But I think now also there's some clarity that Jim Curtin's probably going to remain as this team's head coach. And now I think they're ready to take one more big swing at what just eluded them in the game that you're referring to back in November. They were seconds away from winning it all, and Elliott was seconds away from being an MLS Cup MVP before Gareth Bale and John McCarthy had other ideas.
Yep. I feel like you watched our episode that we did yesterday. We had a little bit of a conversation about exactly that. Philly, the way they play, it's not that different than what they just faced up in New Jersey. And you've got a team that does it much better, actually, in terms of their clinicality, and they can finish. They don't miss opportunities often, and like you said, they're going to make you pay. And I feel like making you pay is like the worst thing an Atlanta United fan can hear, because the mistakes are killing them this year.
Well, there was an inattentiveness, I thought, in the Red Bulls game that I had not seen from Atlanta to this degree. 4 goals is something conceded that they want to forget about, but to concede one on a throw-in, which was the first goal of the game, and I know this was a nice finish by the kid Daniel Edelman for the Red Bulls, who fired off a nice shot and beat Brad Guzan. That disturbs me if I'm looking at it from an Atlanta perspective. The 4th goal that they surrendered in that game, the second goal by Frankie Amaya that really put it away for the Red Bulls, it almost seemed like an unwillingness for Atlanta to defend in that situation. So I'm going to take a guess, an educated guess, that there's going to be a lot more attention to detail in situations like that by Pineda and his staff in the lead up to this game. But again, Philadelphia right now, they've got it going. They will come into this game on 8 days rest, as will Atlanta. I understand that. But usually when they've got their full complement of players, it shakes out well for them in a game against a team like Atlanta that wants to possess the ball. So the matchup, to me, kind of plays into Philadelphia's hands. The one big drop-off for Philadelphia, still no Andre Blake competing for Jamaica at the World Cup. Joe Bendick is a big step down from what Blake provides as a shot stopper, and of course his familiarity with that back 4 that they play.
You're giving me nightmares, Steve. I was I was already nervous about this game, and then everything you just said was like, I don't know if I should wake up Sunday. Watch this game.
You've got the great equalizer here, though, in number 23 and number 7, though, don't you? The two great equalizers who I think are capable of taking over a game on any given afternoon. Look, Giakoumakis obviously got my vote as one of the three forward selections for the All-Star game. I think the dynamic of the matchup in the midfield with Almada one-on-one, and I'm going to talk to our directors. I hope we can ISO this during the telecast on Sunday as best we can. Jose Martinez, in my opinion, is the best 6 in the league. Thiago Almada, in my opinion, is the best pure playmaking midfielder in the league. People in New England might disagree with Carles Gil. Fine, they have that right. To me, it's still Thiago Almada. It creates a fantastic one-on-one matchup, and I'm very interested to see how that unfolds, because if Almada's on his A game, I think that changes the whole dynamic of what we could see on Sunday.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he really hasn't been over the past 2 matches.
Fair enough.
Really,
yeah.
He'll really strong second half against DC the last time Atlanta United were at home. But, I mean, I feel like a lot of Atlanta United fans will be looking for him to hit that next year. I mean, he had a tremendous start to the season, of course. He's on 9 assists, tied with, I believe, Gazdag for the league. So Gazdag versus Almada is going to be another piece of the puzzle to look at. But I feel like, if Almada can present as that player that Atlanta United fans are used to, Atlanta could make things very interesting. But that's a big if, especially considering kind of the form he's in right now.
Well, Sydney, he set the bar pretty high right out of the gate, right?
No doubt,
Sydney,
no doubt.
I mean, you go back to that first week and understanding what happened and the manner in which he scored those goals, the manner in which Atlanta had its first big come-from-behind moment of the season. You guys would speak to this better than I can. It almost felt like, okay, here we are, and it's time for us in the Deep South to dream big again. The door is open for that, so the bar is set very high. What did disturb me in the game against the Red Bulls, which I watched, obviously, in my preparation for the game, when things weren't going right in the first half, it seems like he was retreating deeper and deeper to get the ball. So, look, I think this key to a game falls into the 100 percentile of every game that's ever been played on the face of the earth, because everybody wants to score the first goal. But for Philadelphia in particular, the numbers are terrific for them when they score first. I think it's 19 consecutive wins for them now when they score the first goal of any game. And Jim Curtin speaks to that when we speak with him about it very cleanly. What that does, it forces us to draw the other team out. They're chasing it, and then it's set up for our guys to carve them up, get a second, get a third, and then it's good night, Gracie, right? I think the first goal is very, very important for Atlanta. I think it would be something to set the tempo of the day with what I expect to be a fantastic crowd again on Sunday afternoon. I don't think I'll expect anything other for a long time. But again, if they could score first and if they could put Philadelphia on the back foot, I think that changes the course of a lot of things that we were talking about a few moments ago. Watch the game, guys. Don't be depressed about it.
We try. We try. I'll be up there in the press box. Sydney will be in the press box. And it's funny, as the home press related to, Atlanta United, we're sitting up there and we're looking at Almada making runs, and then we're looking at Almada having to drop back deeper because, of things that are really not in his control, right? And
right.
You want your number 10 playing as a number 10, not as a number 8 or a 6, and having to drop back to receive the ball. And
just take this back to Giakoumakis too, I think is an important part of the conversation. I mean, you guys referenced my history with the Red Bulls, right? And when I look at players I'm envious of, everybody's going to be so envious of Lionel Messi, or, obviously there was envy with Zlatan when he was in the league. Giakoumakis is the example of a guy that I, as a New Yorker, envy Atlanta for, right? And I'll tell you why. I don't know how familiar you're with New York City, but there's a pocket of New York City, Astoria, Queens, which is the Greek capital of the Western Hemisphere. Okay?
I'm a Mets fan, so I know all about Astoria.
Everyone in Athens knows what Astoria, Queens is. You'd be surprised to know this, okay? You put that player in the New York setting, and he'd be the closest thing the team had to a local MLS star that's been accepted by New Yorkers than what we've had in a very long time. Because of his ethnic background, because of the kind of player he is. You put Giakoumakis on the Red Bulls, John Tolkien isn't sitting on 4 assists. He's probably got 10 or 11 by now. That big, tall, natural finisher who does not need service all that close to goal to unleash a powerful header and get a goal. And also, I think he can play in a pressing system if he ever had to do that. I think he defends very well. So you're looking at what I think is a special player and a potential game changer as well on any afternoon. And maybe Sunday is that day.
Do you feel like, because you mentioned the Almada, Jose Martinez kind of matchup is one of the keys. Besides that, what are some other keys? And you mentioned the 6 and Atlanta playing out of the back. And we had this conversation a lot last week as well with the Red Bulls. Essentially, they're two competing different styles of play, like polar opposite, right? What other kind of matchups, or whether it's players or positions, what are you looking at for both teams?
How Philadelphia adjusts when Kai Wagner goes forward, and if they don't adjust properly, what kind of space that gives to Brooks Lennon on the right side and the service that he provides. I thought Lennon, the few times I've seen him play in person this year, had very strong matches. I think he's had a strong season. I like the confidence level that the man has. I had the opportunity to have an at-length chat with him a couple of months ago, probably by now, one of the games that Danny and I did. And I liked his attitude in terms of confidence that he was rising once again to the level of somebody who should consistently be considered for U.S. men's national team duty. Okay. I like that bravado. I think there's still some more work to do there, but if he finds space deep in Philadelphia's zone as a result of Kai Wagner, who will also look to find space on the opposite end of the field, then I think that could mean very big things for Atlanta and Giakoumakis in particular. That, to me, is a matchup to watch. Now, Philadelphia adjusts very well, and when a team plays the diamond, like Philadelphia is committed to, where are you vulnerable? You're vulnerable on the width of the field, right and left. So if this is going to be a day for Atlanta, I think Lennon becomes a very important part of the equation for this team.
They focused a lot today on that specifically. It was there. Brooks Lennon was actually one of the ones that spoke. And again, it's early in the week, so it's not super tactical stuff that you're watching, right? But it was very clear that that's going to be part of the game plan. They're going to want to pick on the wings, and you've got rotation out wide for Atlanta. Brooks Lennon obviously is kind of the steadfast guy. He's always there. He's your engine. Gutman on the other side, and Gutman, he's going to have an opportunity or two a match where he just kind of appears in the box and makes something happen. But I think the biggest curiosity is going to be, you don't have Etienne. He's out on Gold Cup. You have obviously Araujo was gone now, so it's back to Tyler Wolff and become a fan favorite recently. He's always been a loved guy here, but he's been on a run of form. Do you think he factors into that, or do you think it's more going to be those vertical runs that Lennon likes to make?
Probably more the latter. And what I said about Lennon, with that said, I mean, I kind of like where Tyler Wolff is at this point in the season. And I don't think they sacrifice much with him on the field, even though this is still a very young player who's finding his game. I think he's a serviceable player. But I also think he's going up against a team that will test whatever he has to deliver, because what I think Philadelphia does very well, in particular in that area of the field on the right side, for Atlanta, is the help that Jack Elliott will give on that side. And my gut, I don't know this, but my gut is that once again, Curtin will select Leon Flock instead of Jack McGlynn, because Flock is the stronger defensively of the players. So the help defense he gives in that area of the field is usually something that's very attentive and very good. This won't be easy for Atlanta. To take it back to my original point, I think they're going to have to play a very good game. And I think they have to take advantage of the fact that Bendick is in goal. I think one of the things that Philadelphia will be preaching all week, they've got one of the best free kick takers in MLS in recent years. It is our job, and this is on you, Jose Martinez, because you're always wanting to play on the edge. It's our job to make sure you're not giving those 19, 20, 25-yard free kicks to a guy who can slice you up on set pieces. So that'll be a focal point. And if Philadelphia has that discipline, I think that'll make it all the more harder for Atlanta this week.
You bring up Jim Curtin, and he is slowly becoming a villain here in Atlanta. Him and Heinze got into it a few years ago, and then an article in The Athletic, he makes a comment about Atlanta fans being, SEC type territory. People just go, it's not a true fan base. It's, people are just going there to party. Check their driver's license. They're probably not even from Atlanta. It's the little things that off the field that interest me in games sometimes. And he's slowly becoming more of a villain here. I'm interested to see how the fans treat him in this game here.
You want to know, Tommy, you want to know the interesting dynamic about all of that?
Sure.
You're not going to meet a nicer man. I mean, you're
really, because I hate the man right now.
You're really not. Yeah, I mean, he'll give you the shirt off his back, and just from a repertorial point of view, he'll give you all the time in the world if you ask him to help explain what we are about to watch. There's a funny story. I remember this was at the height of Almada mania earlier this year. This was when he was far and away the top talent in the league in the opening, 4 or 5 weeks in the season. But Gazdag was playing very well for Philadelphia. So I tried to get him going a little bit. And I tried to say, hey, Jim, is it possible that we're making a fuss out of the wrong attacking midfielder in MLS, that maybe it's a Hungarian guy and not an Argentine? And he said, stop right there. I'm in enough trouble with the Atlanta fans as it is. I'm not going there. So we kind of cut the conversation short. But to your point, I also think that kind of thing, it's kind of good for the league. I mean, I know we have stars, but where have the villains gone, right? I mean, where have all the aggravating forwards from the old days in San Jose, or Blanco, who would play that role from the old days of Chicago? So if he represents that to the city of Atlanta, I don't think that's the worst thing for Major League Soccer at all.
100%. You love villains. Like you especially like coaches, like you used to have back in the day, just so many ones that stood out and said, controversial things. And we don't have that as much. And then when you see Heinze and him getting into it, you're like, oh, what did he call him? A jerk, I think? Was that what?
I don't remember that.
I know Tyler knows.
Maybe he did or he didn't.
It starts with A. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah,
okay. It was worse than a jerk. Okay.
Funny the perception that fans have of some coaches too, because again, I did Red Bulls all those years. The year that Atlanta won MLS Cup 2018, Red Bulls had their number in the regular season, as they have for most of the history. And I don't know if you remember the potential handshake at the end of the game with he and Chris Armas. Red Bulls really played a complete game. They ran them off the field. This was the last regular season game before the playoffs between the two. Red Bulls would win Supporters Shield. Atlanta would win MLS Cup. Armas wanted to just shake Tata Martino's hand after the game, and Tata just walked right past him and just was in no mood for it. So that left that kind of sour taste in the minds of Red Bulls fans. And then Tata, of course, lifts the trophy. How fun is it going to be to have him back in the league, by the way, perhaps as soon as next week, with the greatest player on the planet, with the man who's going to be pulling the strings for whatever else is part of that attack. I wanted to ask you guys this. September 16th, I know Inter Miami goes to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. To me, the dynamic of that game, I think that has the potential to be the most important regular season game in MLS this season, because the crowd obviously will be what it is. They're going to open up the upper deck. Yeah. But do they honor Josef Martinez properly for that game assuming he's still on the team, and I believe he will be because Martino will mandate that he finishes the season in Miami. What do you think?
I think so, and I also think to add on to that, especially now that it's confirmed that Tata is coming back, I think it's both of them.
Yeah.
I think they have to.
Yeah, I mean, with Josef, I think that has to be the moment where he's still a tangible player in the league. And I think they're going to make every effort to continue with him as the striker on this team until that day just is no longer reality because somebody comes in from outside the organization. I do know that Javier Morales, who's been the interim coach and is having a very tough time with that group right now, wants to stay away from two strikers. And the impression I got is that he'd rather play 70 minutes with Martinez and then maybe 20 with Campana. I don't know that any of that changes until a potential big striker is landed by Inter Miami from Europe in the coming weeks. And that might not be in this transfer window, by the way, either, guys.
Right. And Tata, you know, I think on paper, a lot of things you would imagine that they would do down there in Miami are pretty easy to guess, right? I mean, Josef, he still is one of the best goal scorers in the league. You're now going to have Messi feeding him and helping him out. Who knows what that does for his confidence? But also, like, Tata is that mind that he could come in and just change things completely around. You know, that's what he did with Atlanta in terms of, you know, going from the way that he started off 2018 to kind of his bread and butter in 2018, and then changed it up in the playoffs, going back to the Red Bulls series and kind of threw Red Bulls for a loop a little bit. So, I mean, he's got the mind to, I think, get the most out of those players.
The thing I can't wrap my head around yet, Tyler, but I think we'll get an answer in the first couple of games that Messi plays. Obviously, he's a fantastic talent, but how long does it take for people to recognize how to feed off that talent and make me a better player? Okay, there's going to be an adjustment because they're playing with something that they've never experienced before. You know, Busquets will know what's going on. Busquets knows how to read off his movement. Busquets will know what to expect. But there will be, for all the greatness of Lionel Messi, even at this stage of his life at 36, and I still think he's close to the top of the game, obviously not in the prime years anymore. But I think there's going to be an adjustment from whoever is on this team, Kremoski, Josef Martinez, Campana, David Ruiz in the midfield. It's going to take them a little bit to learn how to play with somebody who competes at that level. I don't think that's going to kick in right away. So that's why I think whatever Messi greatness we see is going to be individual greatness right away and not necessarily making everyone around him better. He's proven everybody else wrong, so maybe he'll prove me wrong. First game, Cruz Azul on July 21st, right?
Yeah. I think it's one of those things too, where it's, you know, like you're saying, the youth, maybe not so much youth, but lack of experience compared to playing at that level that he plays at. I think a lot of it, you just go back to that old adage of, hey, just give him the ball. Just get the ball to Messi and see what happens.
But there's more to it than just get out of the way, right? Yeah. You have to accentuate whatever, and they're going to work on that. They're going to talk on that. And I don't think Tata Martino will figure that out right away. I think there's a process. Look, I'm as excited as anybody to see these first 12 games for him before the season ends. Right. But I think realistically, a lot of this is about 2024.
No, I'd agree with that. I'd agree. Real quick, I don't know when you and Danny are getting into Atlanta, but is there anything you guys are looking to get into, looking to see when you're in town, or is it a quick trip for the two of you?
Yeah, it depends when we get in, right? I think this week we both get in on Saturday night. So you have to understand, like, I'm interested whenever I do a game on Sunday and not a Saturday. I like to immerse myself in that MLS 360 and a lot of the 7:30 games because that's you made a good point earlier. Forgive me, I forget which of the three pointed, and that is the schedule. So I watch a ton of games every week. but I only watch select games live. It's generally one that I'm calling at 7:30, and then maybe I'll catch the late game. One of the 10:30 starts from start to finish. It'll be interesting to see whether they tweak the schedule at all moving forward at some point this season or certainly next season. But to answer your question, probably Saturday night, I'm settling in with a glass of wine, my Chipotle order, and I'm just going to watch with the laptop some of the 7:30 games from my hotel room in Atlanta. But we will get out and about before the season is done in Georgia. We've done it a little bit already in previous trips.
Steve, real quick, take us behind the scenes. You talk about the Atlanta Miami game, and behind the scenes with Apple, who calls dibs on that game? Do you guys do like a Fight Club type thing, flip a coin, do a lottery? Like how? Like how do you guys pick games? Is it just assigned to you? How does that go?
We just have them assigned. Generally speaking, and this is not definite. Usually, we have our schedule 6 weeks in advance. So if you ask me on August 16th where I'm going to be on September 16th, I'll probably know. But right now, I think as I speak with you guys, I have my schedule through the group stage of Leagues Cup, and then a lot of that is to be determined after that. But yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun down the stretch for games Messi is involved in and games that Messi might not be involved in, because I think the race in the East is going to be pulsating in the last month and a half or so. I really do.
For sure.
Yeah.
I take my march. To answer your question, I take my marching orders from the office. Yeah.
We were hoping for a Fight Club, but it's okay.
We'll take it. I don't know how well I'd fare in that.
Steve, we appreciate it. This is a good time to point out really quick as well that this match actually is one of the free ones on Apple TV. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a subscription, I don't know what you're doing, but if you don't, you can still watch this match. So, Steve, at least me and Sydney will be there. We'll probably see you tomorrow, or not say tomorrow, Sunday. We'll probably see you Sunday.
Stop by the booth and say hi, please, okay?
Absolutely. We
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, sir. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I'm really glad to have Steve Kentelilsi along with us tonight. And yeah, should be a fun one on Sunday.
He's a voice of the ages.
I know. Great voice.
I hear his voice. I'm like, I know where I was at so many times when I was listening to him call matches.
Yeah. So you'll have an option to watch him and Danny Higginbotham on MLS Season Pass, of course. Again, it's a free match. All you need to do is subscribe to Apple TV. Or you need to have an Apple ID. That's all you need. You don't need to subscribe to MLS Season Pass to watch. So that is free. And also it's on the Fox network with a different crew. So I don't know if I wanted to mention that when he was on the air, but just as a public service.
And Apple's not paying us any money to say this, but Fox broadcasts suck. Like, they're bad. Like, let's just be honest. Like, it just they don't seem like their heart's into it. I mean, they're not even there, right? Like, isn't that the thing? Like, they don't even fly these guys out for games. Is that is that the thing?
Fort Lauderdale or something.
Yeah, like it's just weird. Like you have one game a week. You can't fly these guys out to set them up in a booth somewhere to watch the game. It's weird.
Yeah.
We love you, Apple. We love you, Apple. Don't leave us, Apple.
Yes. Season Pass is miles ahead of what Fox was. And, I'm not just saying that because we had Steve on just now. We've had some of the MLS Season Pass folks on earlier in the season or throughout the season. But, yeah, it's miles ahead of what Fox has done.
And I think it's worth pointing out, too. Like, whether you have – every time I look at the list of folks that are calling matches, right, I feel like I'm playing – like Super Smash Brothers or like Mortal Kombat, and there's like a list of like pick your fighter type thing going on because there's so many like good talents that are in this Apple TV deal, and whether you agree with them or not, depending on who you like, who you don't like, you do have quality no matter what. And like we were talking about, like Tommy, you mentioned earlier, and Steve was touching on it. The hardest thing right now is just that time slot. Like you don't get to watch as much as you probably want to, just because everything's so packed together. So, it's good to have. I think it's become more or less what everybody wanted it to be. when this was first announced, because you don't have the blackouts. You get to watch what you want, and it's refreshing. So that being said, I want them to swap the time slots like immediately. I really, 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 really want that to be a focus.
Yeah,
I think they do.
Yeah, that might be a consideration in 2024, but I'm sure Apple and MLS will have a long talk about things like scheduling, programming at the end of the season, and really make the needed adjustments that they feel would be best for the fan. You would hope, especially with how much Apple is paying for these rights.
How do you think ESPN feels at this point? Like, MLS got messy.
Left out.
And yeah, right. Like it's interesting, like how that conversation went, like in both sides, and like that was like something I thought about when Messi came. Like you tell, like the Apple, like I just in my fan fiction. I know Tyler, you read it all the time. My fan fiction. There's like a Discord group, right? Also, we have a Discord now. Join it. But there's a like a Discord of all the Apple announcers, and they're like Messi, 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 and then you just see like middle finger sad emojis in the ESPN across the board. Like they forgot what MLS was, like, because they hardly ever show anything on ESPN. Like that's what they did to the NHL too. When they got rid of the NHL, like they barely showed any NHL highlights. So they were like, we could forget MLS. We're not going to show any highlights. And then they're like, oh no, we got messy. Or they got messy. Apple got messy. MLS didn't get messy. Apple got messy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what are we going to do? We have to show MLS again? Oh no, what do we do?
There's a lot of,
and then there's Fox going, oh man, we got to fly people out to like actually talk about this game. Like, do they send announcers out for the first Fox game with Messi? Like, you know they're going to, right? They're
not.
If they don't, that's even more insane. If they wouldn't send them out, oh,
they probably won't. But
they think they have to.
Your fan fiction is cynical, Tommy.
It's going to be a cramped broadcast booth. But yeah, Messi will have a very familiar coach when he gets to Miami. Of course, Santa Martina, we talked about with Steve earlier, but officially announced on Wednesday. And it's a name that brings respect and experience. I mean, that's not to say Diego Alonso, their first head coach, didn't have experience. He was very experienced. Coached at a number of different clubs, kind of jumped around, and then Phil Neville came in and kind of was panned as one of Beckham's buddies. Coached with England's women's team before he came to Inter Miami, but yeah, that didn't work out, and now Tata Martinez is going to come in, and hopefully Inter Miami fans will see an improved team with Tata at the helm, and I feel that's going to be very interesting. I mean, Messi, of course, will be there, who he's familiar with the Argentine national team and Barcelona, but there's just so many other moving pieces with Miami. It's got to be more than Messi. I mean, Messi will draw eyeballs. Messi will score goals. And Steve kind of talked about it. Messi will have his individual moments of brilliance, but like he said, it's probably going to be more about 2024 because I don't know even with Messi and Busquets there to finish out the season, I don't know if this team makes the playoffs. They're just too far behind the 8 ball, too far behind the line. And yeah, I think 2024, they're going to have massive expectations, maybe MLS Cup expectations in a lot of league circles. But yeah, this year, maybe just playing out the string just a little bit because of their standing right now, just way out of the playoff race at this current point in time. Now, if by some miracle, I mean, and let's say it's probably going to take a miracle for them to make the playoffs. I mean, right now they're 11 points out of a playoff spot. So if they're able to get on a significant run and fantastic run somehow and just turn the league on its head over the stretch, I mean, think of all the possibilities for MLS, of course, but my goodness, that's going to be something else.
You don't think they're going to make it?
I don't think so. I mean, 11 points out with 16 matches to play. I think. I mean, not impossible, especially with 9 teams making the playoffs from each conference now. But yeah, I don't see it personally. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. There's just still a lot of holes to fill in that roster outside of Messi and Busquets, I think.
I'm heading on to the Battered Herons podcast after this. I'm going to tell them what you said.
You can tell them.
I think they do it. I think they make it. I'm not going to call any shenanigans here, but I'm calling shenanigans with my eyes. They're going to make it. There's too much money in Messi not making it. I like these stories in my head, and I somehow think that they end up making it in this season. And Messi's already even talked about it, right? Like, he's getting texts they've got to make the playoff for him. They got to make the playoffs and all that. I'm not saying one man can do it, but I think that they end up making it. I'll probably make a lot of money if they make the playoffs, but that's not why I'm saying it here. But I I think that with this Apple contract and everything, I think that the league's really going to want him to go. And my controversy is that they're gonna get in.
Rigged. The Cardinals say Messi cannot enter the playoffs.
I can.
So, yeah, I don't see it personally. What do you think, Tyler? Playoffs or no playoffs for Inter Miami? I don't mean to make this Inter Miami podcast, but
I think there's so much history, right? You kind of have to point it out because again, this was news that became finalized a couple hours before the show. We knew it was coming, but my mic was muted.
Oh,
no, we heard you.
I thought it was mine.
Oh, no. Oh, well, I don't know what just happened then. Okay, fine. I'll
sorry.
carry on with my rant. No, I think they make it. I think it's going to be tough, but if there's any guy that can do it, Messi's the talent. If there's any coach that can do it that's available right now, that's here or coming into MLS, it's Tata. But also, they're not done right now. They have an uphill battle. For sure, and I don't know if I'm going to go conspiracy theory route like Tommy, but
do it.
I mean, it's. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, Tommy. But I still think. Yeah, wink, wink.
Me too.
Nudge.
Yeah,
me too.
I
think it's good. Tata is going to be interesting because, wasn't one of the reasons why he didn't stay in? Well, one of the reasons why he didn't want to stay in MLS is he didn't like to travel, right? He wanted to spend time with family. So it's interesting that he does come back.
Not like Atlanta. His wife, I don't even think lived here in Atlanta when he was here.
No. Well, everybody loves Miami, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
That's what I read on Twitter is that everybody loves Miami.
I mean, they get what they want, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
I thought it was the bath salt capital of the world, but that was just me.
I think that's just north of there, actually.
That's a story for another podcast.
Come join our True Crime podcast.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to talk about Philly?
Yep. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a SEC. Tommy, you said a driver's license tifo. I'm hoping for an SEC tifo. Something.
It's weird.
Or a combination of the two.
Real quick story, and I guess I'm not a big SEC fan. I'm an unfortunate Pac-12 fan, but it was weird. I was at a Falcons game, my first time in Mercedes-Benz, and the Falcons they lost to the Dolphins. Jay Cutler and the Dolphins, Jesus. And while we're walking out, everybody, the Falcons just lost it. Everybody's just chanting SEC. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? Why is everybody chanting SEC? So, when I read Curtin's comments, I was like, oh, yeah, well, I guess that might actually be a little bit true. They're just random people just chanting SEC. I don't like any league that I go, NHL. I don't know. It's the South and their obsession with the SEC is just really weird in general.
They were honoring former Vanderbilt great Jay Cutler.
Oh God, jeez, I'm out. I'm out.
He's about to quit.
We're talking about Jay. Oh man, I can't believe I brought Jay Cutler. But yeah, I think it's a good. This is a good rivalry that you can build. And Steve brought up a good point. Like a lot of leagues lack personality these days, and like real storylines of like coaches hating each other, and like you saw that in the NFL, especially like in the NHL, like just because there were so many fights, like you would have coaches hating each other. And I think leagues can get boring sometimes. They can get flat. Like you need some rivalries. And if one of the rivalries is Jim Curtin versus Atlanta, he's definitely made that case, right? Like we said earlier, got in with Heinze. Now he's in the Athletic spouting off, and like now apparently he knows about it and didn't want to trash talk Omada. That was a nice little story that we didn't know there. Like that's just it's building onto it, and I think that's what's really good for the league is having these type of personalities. And like there's nothing against Pineda. I just don't see him like being one of those type of people that like really get into it with like another coach and like call him out or anything like that. Now he will call out the refs, but that's Pineda versus the refs is a whole other battle that we could talk about another day. But these type of things are really good for the league. For sure. And like you said, Tata's got into it with some other coaches in MLS in the past. So, we'll see what he's like coming back into the league.
Yeah. You mentioned the word villain with Curtin. Surprisingly, you used the word heel. I know you're a big
I was just thinking that
wrestling fan. So, yeah, Curtis kind of turned into that heel for the Atlanta United fan base. And I feel like some of that vitriol will be aimed toward, a lot of that vitriol will be aimed toward him on Sunday afternoon. But I was just thinking, I can't ever forget, essentially Atlanta United was the opponent where I guess everyone discovered Brendan Aronson, because when he scored against Atlanta United, he was just some kid from the Philadelphia Academy who was a homegrown, and now he's in Europe and on the U.S. men's national team. So I feel like not a lot of people thought his career would take off the way it did when he scored against Atlanta United. But that's something that I was thinking about, and I'm hoping that we don't see another Brendan Aronson situation like we did a few years back.
Atlanta does its part to make sure people make big moves. That's why we're a big club.
People always score their first goals on us, their first career goals. Like, I think it's me, because like the Ducks are the same way in the NHL. Like everyone's like, oh, their first career goal is scored against us. Everybody scores their first career goal against Atlanta United. It's a thing.
I'm hoping against the Paxton Well, no, Paxton's out of MLS. I forgot.
Yeah, but there's plenty of other ones though. They've got McGlynn.
The other Aronson brother. I forget his name. But I'm hoping that we don't see another repeat of that. Some kid signed to a homegrown deal like a year or two ago going off, because that would be very depressing.
You also have a guy I did an article about a little earlier in the season. He was with Caleb Wiley in the U20 World Cup, Brandon Craig. I don't know that he necessarily plays or starts, but
what is it about these players he can't spell their names? Brandon is spelled Brandan. Brendan Aronson is Brenden, and then you have Paxton Aronson, Paxten. What is it about Union young players, academy graduates? I mean, Mark McKenzie.
What about that Philly area? I have no idea.
Mark McKenzie has a fairly common spelling. And he had a fairly common spelling when he was, well, he still does, but I mean, sorry, go ahead. I'm just side observation.
I was letting you on your soapbox.
Why can't I spell names?
Yeah,
you're not going to be part of my fan fiction, Sydney. You can't spell.
Jack Elliott is a fairly normal spelling. I'll give him that.
Yeah, this is true. But no, Brandon Craig, he's a. I think maybe you see him make an appearance depending on how the game is going. He's a center back, but he's like one of my center backs in like Football Manager or something. Like he's like a free kick specialist. The kid is a center back that knows how to put a ball on a dime. And for the U20s, he was actually the one taking a lot of the free kicks, even in the attack. So they've got talent and ways to score in places that you don't expect. And Steve kind of mentioned it. They've got guys that are getting involved in the attack that never have before. And we go back a week and a half ago to Jose Martinez and that banger that he scored. And, we always talk about Jose and his personality. It fits right in with what Jim Curtin puts out there. They, are very trash talky. That's what they do.
He's a player you hate to play against, but you love to have him on your team.
Exactly.
He fits that profile perfectly, Jose Martinez.
Oh, I'd take him on my team any moment, but I hate that man.
Absolutely.
Yes, that guy. The Joseph without the F. But he, Steve brought up a good point with him in terms of something for Atlanta fans to be excited about. The he's crazy. Like, he's very much an Ibarra. And I think, you get you get Giacomakis in his ear with Giacomakis' like passive aggressive, just yapping off and like being nice, like trying to pick somebody up off the ground because they won't get up. And God knows Philly's going to do that. Because they're going to be flopping all over the place like dead fish. And you're looking at a recipe to really get under Jose's skin. Of course, he's going to try to get under your skin too. But then he starts getting a little reckless, a little crazy, and you start getting some free kicks in Almada territory, and that might turn the game on its head depending on how it plays out.
You do, coaching wise, do you not like that Atlanta does some of these shenanigans that other teams do? Like, would you, for a team that blows a lot of leads, right? We know that. And you see other teams that do some things that probably aren't in the right spirit of the sport. Do you kind of wish that Atlanta would do some of that stuff on occasion?
Yes. I want Kubo Torres to come back and put on a workshop on how to dribble the ball to the corner and screw around with people and not give it up. But
that's different. That's not the same thing though that what Philadelphia does.
No,
or the
not.
Red Bulls do. Like that's just smart. That's just playing smart. That's just doing, some of the right things. But like they're going down, they're cramping up, and how many times have we seen people come to the Benz? You know what I mean? And that San Jose game was a perfect example. To start the year, everybody's going down like after the 60th minute, and they got people coming out. With the cart, they're halfway off the field, then they're back on, and they're killing time like crazy. Would you want Atlanta to start doing some of those type of things to kill some time in there? Would you be okay with it? Because I think it's an honest question, because I think some people don't like it when it happens to us, but would you like us to do it to them?
I mean, there's a limit that you have to keep in mind. I mean, you don't want to get a reputation across the league of being that kind of team, right? But that being said, it has to be done in a smart way, so to speak. I mean, you can't just do it just to do it and just to be.
But Philly does.
Well, I mean, again,
that's part of Philly's DNA,
right? Yeah, it's known for them. Like it's a thing that it's about, and it doesn't seem like they don't get penalized for it often.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, you don't want to be another Philly, I guess. I mean, if you want to do it. If you want to play that kind of game, it has to be done in a way where, I don't know, I guess you're not drawing too much attention to yourself. I mean, you don't want to just flip on a switch right away because, I mean, you're going to get whistled for it, obviously. But, like, I know Philly has that reputation already, and that's their game. But I feel like it would be a little bit out of place for Atlanta United to just all of a sudden do it. If they did, it has to be done kind of in a smart way, and then a tactical way where they're not just like, going down here left and right for no reason.
I think for me, you always want to be above it, but it's also part of the game, right? And I think like you've had players on this team that know how to play the game. They know how to, cast the dark arts. They know how to pull the shenanigans and the other S words that I'm not going to say, but like it's part of the game, right? And I go back to one of the Toronto matches that we drew, the one in Toronto, where, they give up the very late goal. Machop Chol, I think he dribbles it over the touchline. It ends up being a throw in that turns into the equalizing goal. You lose points, right? I want to see more of like you kick the ball into the stand, not drill somebody. You kick the ball into the stands. You take that moment to, have a little bit of an issue with your ankle. Like I'm not mad at that because that is part of seeing out games. It's ugly, absolutely, but I'm not mad if they start doing it to a degree, especially if you see out games because of it, because you have to. You have to play the clock a little bit. And, you may get punished. And that's what happened with San Jose in the first match. They got punished because of the amount of stoppage time that was given because they were doing that crap way too much. It has to be tactful. It has to be smart. It can't just be like, again, Philly is awful about it. And I hope in this match that you're looking at, depending on the way the scoreline looks, at significant stoppage time because of it. But that's a gamble, right? First of all, you never know what the refs are going to do anyway. But you have to have some, for lack of a better word, some a-hole. You have to have some D-bag in you, right? Like to see out some of these games. And I would love to see that attitude more. That's why I would love to see, as he comes back to fitness, Ozzy Alonso getting involved in that kind of stuff more. I'm sure Giakoumakis is well suited for the dark arts, considering where he came from in Scotland. Like, you have players, I think, that can do it. I watch Lennon a lot. Lennon, he's funny, actually. If you really, really keep an eye on him, if you're at the Benz, free kicks, he'll start, nudging the ball a little closer to goal, when the ref turns his back to blow the whistle. And, on a dead ball, he'll kick the ball away. Like he does it, just not to the degree I think that a lot of people are there, they see. But I'm not mad at it. To answer your question, Tommy, if they do it more, I'm not mad at it because they got a long way to go before they get to Philly's level.
Yes. Feed into the dark side.
So how are we feeling prediction-wise? I mean, I keep saying, I've said for the past few matches, I think 1-0. Gosh, and it burned me in the big way on Sunday against the Red Bulls. It wasn't even close. But I mean, I'm not feeling very confident about this match, guys. Philly's just.
When have you felt confident about a match, Sydney?
But here's the thing, though. Bendik is playing in net, and Bendik, I mean, it's not nearly the same quality as Andre Blake. So that's kind of your X factor right there, I feel like. Or one of them. Of course, Bendik is very familiar with the Lady Knight did with the sign with Orlando City, and that's something we didn't mention earlier. But, I mean, yes, Philly press, and yes, they have that diamond formation that Atlanta have really struggled against. So, while I don't foresee a high-scoring game necessarily, I mean, I'll probably have to go 2-2. I think Bendik lets in a couple of goals that aren't that Andre Blake's would have stopped. I think maybe Almada gets a crack at a free kick or two throughout the night. I think maybe Giakoumakis gets back on the score sheet. And, yeah, I'll say 2-2. So, frustrating in the mindset that Atlanta United will not have won the game, but still have played well enough to remain unbeaten, I think, or get back into get a point. I should say get a point. So 2-2, Giakoumakis and Almada.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 1-1. Actually, I don't know what to think, but I also know that the type of team that Atlanta is about to play is very similar to the one that just destroyed them in New Jersey. Of course, you do have the fact that you're back at the Benz. That's going to be a big difference. The players are not going to want to repeat anything that came close to last weekend at all. So the fact of the matter is right now, Philly's just a better team the way they're playing. So they're not going to make it easy. I'm not confident either, as much as I hate to say that. But I do think played the right way, you have an Almada free kick, or like you said, Giakoumakis gets on the end of something. He can, again, Philly's never seen Yako before. So he's a little bit of a wild card as well. and he's going to finish his opportunities. As long as he's getting the ball, he's going to finish the opportunities. And he's, like you said, Sydney, he's against a very inexperienced goalkeeper, relatively speaking. So I don't ever in any universe right now see them keeping a clean sheet against Philly, but I do think they can nick a goal. Tommy, what you got?
Well, I was a little confident because I went back and was thinking about that Philadelphia game from last season. You know, the game where we really should have won. It was a fun one. You know, they attacked the entire second half. But there's something right now I feel it's missing with this team, and I'm not confident they're going to get it against Philadelphia. I do think Giakoumakis scores, but I think they lose 3-1.
Tommy. What did you
Don't
do?
you dare say a thing. Don't you dare say a damn thing. No. Don't look at me like that. No. You look to your left and you look at Sydney. You've never said any. I'm the one that yells at Sydney all the time when he says things. So don't.
It up.
Huh? No. You know, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong here, but I think that if what happens, I say, ends up being true, and I don't want it to be. It's just I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win this, guys. I'm up 2-1. I'm up to 2-1 on you right now, Tyler. I really just want to win this, but I'm looking at this and saying that there's got to be, and maybe it's this week. Maybe it actually did happen this week. There's got to be a come to Jesus moment with this entire team together and getting everything all on the same page, right? Like you heard Caleb Wiley call out basically the team saying that they're not ready. Is that enough to really? That's what I want to see in this game. I want to see how your young player, one of your young star players, called out. And I don't even want to say star player, but he's a big part of your homegrown, right? And he's had a decent season so far. He calls out this team. How does this team respond? Because if they don't respond well and they still come out flat, then I think there's possibly some trouble that is going on internally on the team, and that they're going to have to get it fixed here. So I don't want this to happen, but I'd say the biggest thing to watch for in this game with me is how this team starts. And Steve said the same thing. That, you know, who scores the first goal, right? I don't even want that. I don't even say that they've got to score the first goal, right? I want to see in that first 20 minutes that they're solid, that they're at home, that they're on the attack, and they're not making these silly mistakes in the defensive zone, allowing easy opportunities. That's what I want to see, because that's really going to tell you if whatever happened after that game in New York, if anything has changed.
Yeah. And final match before the transfer window opens up. So obviously the match is July 2nd. The window opens next Wednesday. So I expect that the mood will be very interesting if Atlanta United loses this match. But yeah, I don't know if it'll be 3-1. Just saying. But I think that Atlanta United, I don't think can really match up.
Where did you get all this positivity? When you both like Tyler's usually like pretty like optimistic, maybe like he's optimistic / realistic. I've been I'm just always right. But then Sydney, like you're twice. I was right. I'm always right twice. But then Sydney's like always so down. I was like, a draw? Like of all the games you say that Atlanta United's going to lose, and you pick Philadelphia to draw?
A draw.
Where are we at?
A draw is not a loss.
That is true.
Draw is a draw.
That
is
true.
a point. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they'll win, to be honest with you. It's
unpredictable.
That might be flattering Atlanta United a little bit at this current point in time. But they have to respond. They have to respond. No question.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a big statement. I like Mark. Ted Uncle goes full Ted Uncle. Red cards 3 Philly players in the 19th minute. And Atlanta United wins the game 7-0.
That's good fan fiction.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go 2-1. Just to throw a wrench.
Changed it last second.
I'm going to go back to my optimistic streak. And now, if it does happen, Tommy's going to come back and kill me because I made a last-minute sub. Let's see, Renee. We need a coach for the dark arts to school our players to do it properly. Absolutely. It's going back to the conversation we had a minute ago. Yes, they need a little bit of that Harry Potter and Voldemort in them for sure. So a little bit of Slytherin. I want to see it. Omar asking a question, and I actually have the answer to this. Well, at least I think I have the answer to this. Why wasn't Ozzy playing last game? They are not going to start Ozzy right now. Well, they weren't going to start him last week. I still doubt that they start him anytime soon. But by the time it was the time that you would bring Ozzy Alonso into the match was already not fit for Ozzy Alonso at that point. I think you're wasting him coming in at the 60th minute because you're not really playing that great anyway. And I don't know that what Ozzy brings to the table, which is a lot, I don't know that it would have fixed anything in that match. So I think at that point you just let him rest, give him until he gets a whole other 8 days off that he doesn't have to worry about. I mean, he's still recovering from that injury. Give it to him. Don't try to, just like you wouldn't bring in Firmino in that match, because then you're going to use up his last opportunity. He's not going to turn that game around by himself. So you save it. You hate that you have to, but you save it.
Yeah, don't force it.
Yeah.
The smart move to not play him. But yeah, as far as predictions are concerned, if you have any, please let us know. Follow us on Twitter at Scarves, the letter N, Spikes, and just tweet us with your predictions. Emilio saying 3-0 to Philly. Ibarra gets sent off in the 8th. Curtin Bates, Gonzalo, Pineda to getting a red. And Atlanta just loses their minds and loses 3-0.
This is WWE.
Yeah, WWE.
Jeez, Tyler, you got everybody buying notebooks like now, writing their everybody's gonna be publishing the Atlanta United fan fiction story.
We're gonna have our own nook of the internet, and it's gonna be really great.
Yeah, but share your fan fiction with us on Twitter at Scarves, the letter N, Spikes on Twitter, and we may publish some. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier. We mention it every week. Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. A new benefit just released on Wednesday today.
As we're recording. Fan fiction as well.
Yeah, a place to post your fan fiction as well. A Discord server, a new Discord server that we have just released. Again, available only to our patrons at any level. So $1.17 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. Super easy to sign up. Patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. I know we mention it every week, but we want to really give you guys that opportunity to financially support us. Like we always say, this show is always free. The YouTube show will always remain free no matter what. The podcast will always remain free no matter what. That being said, we'd love to give you guys some little benefits here and there, some audio interviews that you won't get anywhere else, video interviews or video it's like we did the mid-season review a few weeks ago, and now a new Discord server. So patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. And yes, we'd love to see you support us any way you can. Again, $1.17 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. Any of those tiers, any of those will give you access to our Discord. But yeah, please support us, and thank you for those who already do. Really appreciate your support and your help, and yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna try and do a segment starting soon where we have a questions part of the Discord, so you can leave us questions, and we'll carve out some time on this to and try to answer as many as we can.
Yeah, and as usual, we try to get to y'all's comments during the match as well. What am I talking about during the show? But it's hard. Like, you guys, we love it that you guys are in the chat so much. Like, that's what we want. That's why we're doing this. That's why it evolved from the Spaces show in the first place. Mm-hmm. We want you guys chatting, commenting. Like, that's what we're here for. Speaking of, Omar saying 4-0 Philly, it's another crap show. Oh boy. But yeah, like Tommy's saying, we've got one of the channels that's in the Discord is gonna be a segment that we can set aside to try to maybe like rapid fire or so, just hit on just the questions that you've got, trying to answer as best we can the specific questions that you have, that we have a little bit of time beforehand to take a look at and maybe do some research and investigate or whatever that we got to do to get you guys the right answer and the answer that I hope is good for you.
Yeah.
So lots of things going on, and stickers. I'll give you guys a sneak peek really quick.
Nice.
So on the way,
Yeah.
that is one. I won't show you all of them, but I do got to throw this one up there because it is such a famous moment in our early young history. The Joseph candle, light it up for Joseph. So we got a couple more stickers as well. We'll be getting those put up for you guys too. We're going to do giveaways, but we're also going to be selling them as well. So
if you're listening to the podcast, we're going to shoot out the pictures Tyler showed on Twitter. So twitter.com/Garth and Spikes. We'll give you guys a chance to take a look at those over there as well. But yeah, looking forward to these. They look really good. I mean, Tommy, and I have seen them as well, and really excited to see these out in the wild.
Yeah, stick them.
Do you have just big ones of our heads? Does that exist?
That's not yet, but it can.
That's for our $20 patron.
I didn't say topless pictures, Sydney. Don't try to sell us off here. Jeez.
I thought those were your feet pictures.
Those are the only Tom's stickers.
We've gotten to that point in the episode.
Scars and Spikes Feet.com. People pay for that stuff, guys. I'm not judging anyone.
I believe you.
My wife has a weird toe.
No part of it. Dude, this is the second time in our history, in our show, that you brought up your wife's weird toe.
She has a weird one.
I think that's amazing.
I've looked to try to see how I could capitalize it with money, but it hasn't got that far. So, thanks, Zilf. We appreciate you. We just
subscribed.
Yeah.
We also. What is wrong with you? There's so much wrong with me, Zilf. We actually, if you missed it, we actually brought up that we thought you made up this transfer rumor. So thanks. You've broken us. You've broken us at this point.
We also had an entire segment on the Academy and the twos and everything else that you missed, Zilf. So go back.
So rewind.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go upstairs and get some food and look at some toes, and I'm heading over to Battered Errands. I'm gonna head over there, talk about some Tata Martino and some Messi and some Joseph, and I don't know. I can't recover from this. Oh god.
No, you can't.
Yeah,
No.
we need to end this show right now before it goes further down the drain.
We love you guys. We appreciate it.
Yes,
Zilf,
thank you for watching.
Go back and watch
listening.
our show while you continue to play Fortnite. Everybody else, Sunday, if you're at the Benz, come find myself and or Sydney.
Yeah.
I'll be around. Maybe a new match tradition of meandering around the stadium beforehand. But we want to hear from y'all, so we appreciate the support always. So y'all come see us, and make sure you're subscribed over on the YouTube and everywhere.
Yes. Thanks for watching, everyone. Yes, please like and subscribe on YouTube as well if you aren't already. We say all the time it helps us out a lot, but it really does. Almost 400 subscribers as we're doing the show right now on YouTube. I know we could be there by the time the podcast comes out. Please like, subscribe on YouTube. It's super easy. And I think that's it.
Like it.
We
will
subscribe
see
it.
you guys probably Monday and then Sunday night for the Spaces show.
Happy 4th
Cheers,
of July, everybody.
Yes, happy 4th of July. We'll see you next time.
See y'all.
Don't blow yourself up this weekend.
No, please play safe with fireworks.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, definitely don't do that.
And shoot off fireworks.
Make sure you tie the fuses together when you get ready to launch the mortars.
Back it up,
I like
Terry.
I like those little snakes you like light on fire.
Oh, Jesus. Back up, Terry.
We've gone off the rails again.
Again? All right. See y'all.
See y'all.